All right, welcome back. Here we are again, home again. Love this Nonsuch. This is going to be a big part of my life for the next few months. But we've covered it's a deal. It's happening. We're repowering. We're ordering parts. We've got our checklist. We know it's going to fit. We got a plan. But really, the next two big ticket items before this boat lands at Marine Tech, and this is a little different. King's Pride, I got to be honest, we just went in blind. We looked at like two boats, we bought it, put it up to school, and just started working.
When it gets done, it gets done.
Yeah. We're not doing that this time because you're going sailing next summer.
I have a rendezvous. July 7th.
July 7th. So we've got a hard line. So July 7th, let's back up some expectations and see if we can make this work. So this video is about timeline. Next video is about budget to make sure you can afford this thing. But so what we're going to do on our timeline is this video is going to be first of the year, January.
Yep.
Our plans in January are to start the pre-work. And pre-work's a big deal, especially, well, maybe you've got a unlimited budget and then the boatyard could do all the pre-work. But I don't recommend that.
No,
we are do-it-yourself people, so we're going to make a list and we're going to do some pre-work. Things like ordering supplies, that's on your list, right? We've got to order. We're going to get the beauty is the engine takes months to get, but the GRP base is going to be here in January. That's a big win. So,
number one, remove what is. I feel the best thing to do is to reglass, replug, fill all the holes.
Oh, but wait, you can't do that yet. You got to get ready. See, everybody's all just ready to go and removing the motor. Before you remove the motor, we're going to start by prepping the boat and ordering some parts. We still have some carryover from COVID, and getting parts is sometimes an issue.
Yeah,
so
I forgot about that.
We need to order the new fuel filter that you want. We need to get your composite supplies ready. Some epoxy resin or whatever. If you're going to go with traditional, fine. Gloves and paint, and there's a lot you could. So I need to maximize our real estate at school. We have a lot of projects always happening, and so I want people to show up ready to go. And I know that Mike is 100% that person. So,
and in speaking of that, once the motor's removed, go back and analyze what needs to be replaced as far as the hoses, the tubing, the through hulls, and everything, and get that in stock at Marine Tech. So when it comes time to R&R, remove and replace, it's there and we can do it.
It's there. And so one of the things is boat prep. I had a student, former student, Skallywag, out there working that had to replace a couple engine mounts. Simple job, but it's a sailboat, so it's but it's a 2 or 3 hour job to replace 2 motor mounts on a gearbox, check the alignment, right?
Yeah.
It took him an hour to remove all the schmuckish to get to the motor mounts that the boat owner just didn't even bother doing. Like bicycles, crab pots, and then it was an hour to put it all back. So 2 hours, we're looking at, that's a lot of money that I feel, and boat owners, if you have the budget, you don't have to do that. But we aren't going to have students doing that. So I know that Mike is on board. We're going to go through this boat and remove things, probably some upholstery. We're going to empty the lazarette, cockpit lockers. We're going to have cardboard down or plywood on the sole so that we don't damage anything. This is all stuff that owners can do if they're paying for a repower, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, think about this ahead of time. I have been caught in this trap where it's like, it's a little job, doesn't matter, and then you can't afford in today's day and age to damage, teak interior, upholstery, electronics, and so the first thing I think in January that's on our timeline is ordering parts, gathering things, prepping and preparing the boat.
Correct. And I've already started that as far as removing stuff from inside the boat and getting it off. It's books, personal items, and things like that. And what I will do once we get the boat out of the water and into the Marine Tech yard and begin this process, I will seal with plastic, with tape, with whatever I can to make a environment separate from the engine compartment. There's going to be a lot of grinding. A 16-inch grinder.
I just did this on Thor. Some new bulkheads. And holy crow, that boat was empty, thank goodness. But you have a living quarters that you need to separate from the workstation.
Yeah, and that's another reason why removing the cockpit flooring is a good idea.
Yeah. Oh well, they don't know. You made the decision.
Oh
yeah, you're cutting the floor out of the cockpit.
Cutting the floor.
We're getting
out.
access straight away.
Straight away. And I can't remember if we've talked about that or if we're going to talk about that. But yes, the cockpit flooring from the pedestal to the companionway is coming out. Better access, better light, and the removal of all of the particulates from stripping this whole engine compartment clean are going out instead of in here.
Yeah. I don't think your wife would like all the in here contaminations.
No.
I know mine wouldn't.
No.
I've had that scolding already.
We've been down that road before.
So that is definitely a thing. So you're going to prep the boat. The other thing is it's Washington and it's winter, and turns out we do get a little precipitation in our state.
Fortunately, I'm going to be undercover.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, you have to pay to play, so you're going to have to take that stick off.
Well,
I mean, it doesn't fit under cover. We have a nice covered area that you can work in if the mast is removed. And that, see, this is how repowers get expensive, because it's not because you're repowering. You would have done it anyway. So you took the mast off of this boat when you bought it.
Correct.
Because it was down in Santa Cruz.
Down in Santa Cruz.
You can't get it here, on a truck without the mast. So you went down, and you wanted the mast down anyways at that point to check it out, to put some new equipment on it, to do what every sailboat owner should do about once a decade.
And it's a good thing I did that, because, see, I bought the boat in 2010. The boat's 1984, so it was, the math, it was 26 years old.
Yeah.
26 years old at that time. And there was some serious, I call it damage, done to the wishbone and also to the mast, that if I hadn't taken care of it at that time, I would have been paying for it later. Yeah. So yes.
But that was in what year?
2010.
10. Oh,
yeah.
It's 20. It's 2023 when we're doing this again. 13 years. Yeah. So
it's time.
It's time.
Yeah. And people who sell Nonsuches on the East Coast or where weather enables them or permits them, or they have to remove the masts and bring them up into dry storage. I always thought that was a good idea, because every year they get to check the masts out, check the wishbone out, and make sure that everything's up.
So when we do our budget worksheet, you're going to have to add a bunch of money to probably for some mast work.
Well, hopefully not. But
well, I'm just preparing you. It usually turns out that way. So we need to. We're making our timeline, our plan. So in January, Mike's going to prep the boat, and we might as well pull the mast.
Yep.
You're not going sailing in January. It's a little chilly. Not that we don't sail year round here, but you've got a goal, so you need to pull the mast. So we're going to pull the stick, which means dropping the wishbone first, and a whole bunch of stuff. I think you have a list we could share, but it's not just when you say pull the stick. Mike's a do-it-yourselfer. Maybe we'll get some students down here. You've got VHF cables. You've got anchor lights.
Yeah.
I
think for my boat, the hardest part of pulling the mast is leading the VHF cable from the aft
here
all the way forward to the mast, down through the bilge and everything. So it's all one cable from the top of the mast back to the
But this is what I like about this guy. You got to think ahead. You're going to pay somebody to help you take the mast off. You're going to be ready.
You're going to be ready.
All the wires are going to be snaked back through, coiled up, disconnected, whatever it takes, and then mast comes off.
The only thing we're going to have to do when we start picking the mast is pull the wedges out of the partner, and boom, we have it. So
yeah. And these Nonsuches, I love that freestanding mast. So much easier. We don't have all that complicated rigging and roller furlers and da-da-da, but that's personal bias to loving these boats.
Well, most mast step keels or mast step mast to the keel. Once you shove it in the hole, it's going to stay there. But once this mast gets in the hole, it's done deal.
Done deal. Yeah. So the other thing is on your list, boat owner, we're backed out a ways. You got to get the haul out scheduled, right? So our timeline is January prep. The mast is coming off. We're getting the boat, as ready as we can to pull the motor. We can't do any of that because we need to use the motor to get it to the haul out well. But we're going to, prep, motor, not motor, cabin and mast and all of that ready to go. But you need to schedule the haul out 6 weeks in advance probably, So we're going to...
this time of the year,
maybe,
not too many people are hauling out. Come the 1st of March, end of March, it starts getting busy. So we do need to schedule it as soon as possible. And our options as far as when will be, we'll have a better variety or a better choice as to when we can haul out. Now the other thing too is, remember, whenever you haul out, you want to make sure you can schedule a return trip.
Yeah, well, and we've got an unknown return trip, so we're going to have to, once we know the motor is being shipped up to us,
right?
That's one of the first things you don't want to forget is we've done our pre-work, we got our base in, we got everything ready. We know that when the motor gets here, sea trial time, we're going to have that scheduled.
Yeah. Once the motor's here, well then it's...
When the motor's on its way, we're going to schedule a splash date.
Because the motor will just be hopefully a simple installation, and bingo, we have it.
That's crazy. The hard work is all the pre-work. It's all the glass work, the paint work. Once you have that GRP base from Beta in, setting the motor in the sail drive and bolting down the boot, fuel and electricity. Well, we say that because we're technicians. Like I can visualize that in a week.
Sure.
We'll start her up.
Yeah.
So we do that. So that's the January pre-work. We haul out. We get it to Marine Tech. And then once it's at Marine Tech, that's going to be a big deal. It'll have been pressure washed. It'll be there. You're going to chop the hole in the cockpit floor. I'll let you do that, because you're the one that's going to have to put it back together. But then we're going to just remove the engine. We're going to cut out mounts. We're going to really just go to town. A little bit of glass work. We got to paint. I think we're all on board. You mentioned it. We're going to move the fuel filter up here. Maybe the sea basket if it fits. We're going to.
Oh, it will fit. Yeah.
We're going to do all of that.
Yeah. And that should all be done before the engine arrives with the sail drive.
Yeah. There's no reason not to.
No, you're right. The only uncertainty, what should be the beauty of the project, if cutting the cockpit floor out, is that if we're able to attach the sail drive to the motor and put it back into the boat in one piece, right? But if not, we'll have to put the motor in, slide it forward, set the sail drive, and then slide the motor back. But it doesn't need to be slid that much, and it would probably only add a half a day of labor to the job.
Yeah. Got to back up a couple more things. This is what we do. We've been down this path before. Before we bring the motor in, I think you're going to be building a new platform for your water lift muffler. Probably got it, because it's not going to. The previous video we said right between the strut and the water, like that's where the sail drive goes. So that's got to be moved. And steering, you know, visualize Vancouver Island. You're out there in the Pacific Ocean, shooting a little cove. Yeah, you want to make sure your steering stays going, right? So while the motor's out, might be a good time to do the 10-year annual inspect your cable that's maybe 40 years old.
And I'm sure Edison has a little maintenance schedule that we should follow. But
So-
yes, 40 years old on the Edison steering system needs to be checked out.
And for viewers, like, boat yards and technicians aren't trying to gouge you or take more of your money. This is just like routine maintenance. Like,
Right.
steering is an essential part of a boat. So we're going to give that, and what a better, with the motors out, that is the best time to get in there and check out all of your steering system.
You know, when you take your boat to a boat yard, and if you're going to pay somebody to have work done, probably one of the most important thing to do is to have a condition found report done on it.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily have the work done, but have somebody else with other eyes look at what you have down below and see if something isn't quite right.
You know what the hard part is? For those of us in the industry, is I invite people down to Black Pearl, and you invite me down to your boat. And there's things we have to kind of take in because we haven't checked ourselves.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
it's like, oh, I know I should have looked at that, or my students, and it's like, yeah, you're right. It's
And
time.
And it's so easy to look at something and say, well, I'll take care of it next time.
Yeah.
And that next time never happens. And if somebody else looks at it for you or with you, they say, this should be taken care of.
It's time.
And, yeah, it's time. So a little second set of eyes is always helpful.
Well, as usual, Mike, thank you for sharing the project. We now have a questions. It's going to fit. You've made your decisions, cutting out the cockpit and such. We have a timeline. All these things we just talked about. We're pulling the mast. We're prepping the boat. We're bringing it to Marine Tech. And then in February, you got a huge list of things to do. But before we haul the boat, I want to go back up to your shop and sit by the fire. We've been down on the boat 3 times now. And check out your skiff and talk about budget. Because you still have an escape clause. You can be like, well, maybe it's going to be too much money. I doubt it, because you're focused on summer sailing. But that's a big part of it. And I want to run some hard numbers and make sure that it goes back to that expectation with your boat yard. You're like, I'm kind of your boat yard. You're bringing it to Marine Tech. Like, is the commitment and what you want,
Worth
follow
it.
with your goals?
Is it worth it? Yeah.
It's not an investment. You're not going to recoup this money, turns out.
But the only, probably the best investment you can make is on iron, meaning engine replacement. You'll get about 50% return on your money. The rest of the stuff you put in your boat, you might as well say, adios.
This is maintenance.
Yeah.
But if you are doing that, you own a boat and you're on the water, and that is priceless.
It depends on how much the boat means to you. And my boat means everything to me. My best life is on the water. And so whatever it takes, we do it.
All right. Awesome. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Stay tuned for the budget and then the actual haul out and ripping and tearing. That's going to be fun.
See you fireside.